Bibliophiles of the internet, my name's Adriana, and today I'm here to share with you my November wrap-up. The first book I read in November was actually a reread and a buddy read for me, and that was none other than Prince's Gambit by C.S. Pacat. Before I say anything else, I have made a full in-depth spoiler-free review / discussion for the entire Captive Prince trilogy that contains pretty much everything you need to know about why this is a series that I value and enjoy. So I will link that down below in case you still need to see it. I think what struck me the most during this reread is the fact that both of these characters are fallible. They've both done reprehensible things to each other, either consciously or unconsciously, whether they realize it or not. But not only does this installment slowly position Laurent and Damon as equals and give them the opportunity to make amends, but for the first time they're beginning to realize that the other person is worthy and in fact deserving of their respect. Those moments when each character recognizes that he could be a source of validation, support, safety, and assurance for the other person, and that he does want to give him all those things and more, those are the moments that get me the most. And what's really fascinating is that during the first read through, you're so attuned to Damon's thoughts, his feelings, his needs, and the assurances that he requires. But reading it through a second time, you're really able to pick up on Laurent's moments of pain and insecurity, what he needs in order to feel safe, and the reassurances that he requires so that this relationship can work. So there is that new layer of meaning and complexity that comes with finishing the entire trilogy, which I really appreciate. Anyways, I love this second installment. It's one of my favorite follow-ups to any series ever because it accomplishes so much and it just continues to impress me. So of course I gave Prince's Gambit 5 stars. After that, I read Homegoing by Ya Jassi. I don't want to say too much about this one because I did recently post a brief spoiler-free review for this book, which I will link down below. But suffice to say, this is an incredible story that so effortlessly knits together the narratives of ancestors and their descendants, and it's such a remarkable examination of institutionalized racism and how its effects never fully go away. There's really just nothing left to say. It's a brilliantly executed story and I loved everything about it. And the last two books I read in November were both for Tome Topple, which I helped to co-host and was again a tremendous success. The first tome I toppled was Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This was such a pleasant surprise, especially considering that I'm not a huge fan of the Grisha trilogy and I didn't exactly love Six of Crows. But this is a powerhouse sequel that really and truly delivers in every possible way. Plot-wise, this book is chock full of incredible, stunning action sequences, and the stakes are exponentially higher than ever before. So there were a ton of moments when I was just white-knuckled and powerless to do anything but continue on because I could not imagine how these characters were going to make it through this. But the true heart and soul of this duology, the real reason why it's so incredibly successful, I feel, is because of its nuanced, complex, and varied cast of characters. They come from different upbringings, cultural backgrounds, ethnicities. They have differences in ability and sexual orientation. They adhere to different belief systems, and they're each dealing with their own traumas. To name only a few, this story explores vice, addiction, shame, toxic relationships, undoing internalized hatred and racism, and all the things I've mentioned so far are written with such nuance and sensitivity that it really is an incredible accomplishment. And just the fact that Leigh Bardugo is able to balance all of these significant progressions in character development, exploration, and backstory while sacrificing nothing from the present action is just a triumph in and of itself. In case you couldn't tell, I really love Crooked Kingdom. It's definitely one of the most memorable books I've read in 2016, and I gave it 4.5 stars. And the second tome I toppled was one that I read with Sam from Thoughts on Tomes, and that is The Mirror Empire by Cameron Hurley. This story is pointlessly complicated, but in short, it's about these parallel or mirror universes that are gradually moving closer and closer. There are copies or doppelgangers of each person populating all of these parallel worlds, and some doppelganger forces are trying to invade their neighboring parallel universes. The catch is that no two doppelgangers of the same person can coexist in one world at any given time, so if these people want to invade, they're going to have to find a way to kill their own doppelgangers first. The only things I can really give this story credit for are the fact that it does a great job of normalizing multitudes of gender expressions, identities, pronouns, and sexual orientations that go far beyond the binaries that we are familiar with. and that the world and story are both centered around characters who are either female or feminine, which I really appreciate. But that's about it. Let me just reiterate that I really respect how this story goes against the grain and that it's so non-traditional in very impactful, significant, and thoughtful ways. But the characters and the story itself were such a disappointment. All I can say is that stories, no matter how complicated, confusing, or layered, exist to let the audience in. But the level of obfuscation in this book is so gratuitous, it's so over the top that I just continuously felt like I was being shut out for no reason. It's like the story is intentionally keeping you at arm's length, like it doesn't want you to figure out what's happening, not now, not ever. And I get that this is the first book in a trilogy or a series, but this issue is so far beyond that. It's just a really frustrating, paradoxical book because it's not hard to read, it's not hard to engage in what's happening in any given moment. But if you try to look back a couple of chapters, or in some cases even a couple of pages, and you try to summarize what happened there and how it fits into the bigger picture, you can't do it, even after you've finished the book. But more importantly, the character development, or serious lack thereof, was a huge problem because a lot of characters took dramatic leaps from point A to point B with nothing in between, no observable progression, and it's really hard to feel satisfied with that. So honestly, this story has a really cool concept and there were some great ideas and moments in this book, but ultimately I was not a fan and I gave it 2.5 stars. So those are all the books I read in November. In the comments down below, please feel free to share your thoughts on any of them or let me know what is the best book that you've read as of late. But that is everything I had for this wrap up today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it and I will catch you on the flip side of the page. Bye!